It's week 4 of the NFL, and today we're here to preview the Carolina Panthers and New England Patriots. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and welcome into our New England Patriot friends. Maybe you've stumbled upon this video or podcast and decided to take a listen. So I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to get right into it, folks. The Carolina Panthers, and we'll talk in more detail about this as we get into the episode, but coming off a nice win. Meanwhile, the New England Patriots struggled to keep the ball in their hands with 5 total turnovers. I think things balance out in a way this week, and the Carolina Panthers are going to have their hands full going up against the New England Patriots, but it is a winnable game, and honestly a winnable game from both sides, and I know both sides are looking to kind of get things right. So without further ado, we've got a lot to cover. We're going to jump right into our game preview. Carolina Panthers, New England Patriots. As we always do, we touch on the staff, just high level. I do this primarily for teams or fans of opposing teams that are coming in. Dave Canales, Brad Idzik, and of course, Ejiro Evero. We're going to highlight, though, Tracy Smith this week, the special teams coordinator, as the Carolina Panthers have found something with kicker Ryan Fitzgerald and this knuckleball kick. Special teams playing a big difference for the Carolina Panthers, who have the best, in a good way, starting field position for opponents on the kickoff because of that knuckleball around the 21-yard line. That, to me, and we talked about it yesterday, we previewed this game on ESPN Wilmington, that is something that the Panthers have an advantage in, and not every team can replicate it. Some teams can try, but if their kicker can't do it, you can't perform it. And so it's good to have a kicker that can do that on the kickoff. And then in addition to that, make some field goals in a 57-yarder at that. Ejiro Evero really finding his groove last week and overall the last 2 weeks. And I think things are still trending in a good direction for him. Brad Idzik helping with the offense. Of course, Dave Canales is still the play caller. On the side of the Patriots, and look at that, we got a typo at the top. Why not? We have Mike Vrabel interviewed here a couple years ago, Josh McDaniels, Terrell Williams, and then special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer. 2 notable names for Carolina Panthers fans that you want to look out for. Thomas Brown, former OC here, is the tight end coach and the pass game coordinator, and then Ben McAdoo is a senior defensive assistant. When I posted this on social media this week, a lot of people said, wait, he's on the defensive side of the ball. I thought he was an offensive guy. So just calling that out as we preview the New England Patriots, and like Mike Vrabel speaks for himself as far as the head coach that he is. I think he's going to instill the Patriots way back into New England, and they're going to start winning some games. It may not be this year, but I do think they're going to be a more competitive football team. Let's look at it. Both teams 1-2. As we mentioned, and we'll talk about a little more on the preview, the Carolina Panthers winning 30-0 over the Falcons. The New England Patriots falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers 21-14, in large part due to the number of turnovers. Turn the ball over 5 times, it's going to be hard to win a lot of football games in the NFL. And on top of that, as I look at the Carolina, the Panthers from this past week, I think, as I said, I think things are going to balance out. Now, of course, we'd love for New England to have 3, 4, 5 turnovers, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. So all-time series, Carolina leads 4-3 in the regular season. The road team has won 2 of the past matchups, and then in the postseason, New England has, of course, won the one time that these teams met in the Super Bowl. So all-time series lead is 4-4. The last time these teams met in the regular season, It was a New England victory, 24-6. Of course, we talked about the Super Bowl. Dave Canales, head coaching record, second season, 6-14 overall with 300%, about 30% winning record. Mike Vrabel is 55-47 as a head coach in the regular season, which is about 53% win percentage, almost 54. And then post-season is 2-3. Vrabel, his time during Tennessee, is 1-1 against the Carolina Panthers. We talked through this all-time series, but just so you get a better feel for the matchups, Patriots, and these teams don't play a lot. When you're in opposite conferences and you have crossover, unless you make it in the Super Bowl, odds are you're going to play each other every 4 years. So 2021, excuse me, we talked about Patriots win. 2017 was a Panthers win. Panthers won again in 13 and 09. It was the Patriots, and then Panthers in 05, and in 04 Super Bowl, the Patriots. We've talked, and we like to talk about the draft picks for these teams just to get an understanding. And honestly, I need to throw up the undrafted free agents for these teams as well, because we have Ryan Fitzgerald, who is making quite the impact, and he is not on this list, but we'll talk special teams. Tetero McMillan, and I say this for fans that are coming in, maybe you're a Panthers fan that hasn't been in tune with me in the show, or you're a New England Patriots fan. Tetero McMillan has been the part, hands down. Really good receiver. Yes, technically on pace for 1,200 yards, 1,400 yards, but I'd say safely as it is right now, barring anything crazy, which he is dealing with the calf injury and was limited in practice or did not participate. So Tetero McMillan, though, on pace for roughly 1,000 yards, which is a good milestone, I think, for the Panthers as we look to really get that true number one. Nick Scorton, Princely Umamialand holding down the edge. We've seen a lot of them over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. I'd expect that to continue, as Princely is the only person on this team with a sack. We're getting a lot of pressure, just not being able to get to the quarterback and get him down. Trevor Etienne, limited as far as a running back. He's the third back in the rotation, so he's not going to see the field that often. Unfortunately, did not have a great showing in the return game as a punt returner. He muffed the punt last week, so curious to see if we still go with David Moore. We're starting to see a lot more of Lathan Ransom in the mix at the safety position. Saw him, that snap count increasing. Cam Jackson also starting to get into the flow. When you have this rotation of guys on the defensive front, it helps, and maybe a few guys out. Mitchell Evans is going to see his production increase with JT Sanders sidelined for a few weeks. Week to week is what it's reported as right now. And Jimmy Horn Jr. is the only one out of our rookie class that has not seen the field in 2023. 3 weeks into the season, every day he has been a scratch. So we'll see a healthy scratch. We'll see if we can get him in. For the New England Patriots and Patriots fans, you guys probably know your draft picks way better than I do, so I'm not going to pretend, but I know there are quite a few studs on this roster, starting with Will Campbell, offensive tackle. Smart investment, I think, for getting Drake Maye some help on the offensive line. Trayvon Henderson, running back out of Ohio State. I know there was a lot of praise for him. It feels like the biggest thing that trying to find out in New England is pass catchers for Drake Maye, and just getting settled in to get him some weapons. And with Polk gone, it's like, okay, well, just trying to find footing and figure out what that's going to be. But Drake Maye, I still think, doing a really good job at the quarterback. I am biased because I'm a North Carolina fan, but I do think Drake Maye is going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL, and we're continuing to see him progress. And I don't think he's on the same path as Mitchell Trubisky. Jared Wilson, the center. Craig Woodson, a safety. Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle. I remember looking at him through the process. Braden Swinson, same thing. And I want to say that I should add notes on here on where these guys panned out, because I know draft pick and then roster cut downs, things change, practice squad. But Andreas Borregales, the kicker out of Miami, I actually don't know how he's performing, but at least pre-draft, the hype was there. Marcus Bryant, offensive tackle. Julian Ashby, look at that, a long snapper out of Vanderbilt, and then Kobe Minor, defensive back. All right, let's summarize last week. And it's a little small for you guys to read, but I've got it pulled up on my screen to make it bigger. We kind of talked about it at high level. Carolina Panthers shutting out the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. If you wanted to learn more, go back to that episode. We recapped it for 45 minutes. And we did another episode on Monday. So a lot of content for you guys. Panthers would get their first win. They moved to 1-2. It was a dominating defensive performance with 3 turnovers. It was the first shutout in almost 4 years, quite a while. Shaw Smith-Wade had an interception, pick 6. Mike Jackson had a nice interception. Should have returned it, we think, for a touchdown, but it didn't happen. Bryce Young had a rushing touchdown, no passing touchdowns. Like if you're a box score watcher, you probably look at it and say, what? Panthers had a 20, almost 19-yard advantage on field position at their own 41 compared to Atlanta starting at their own 22. So big difference there. Ryan Fitzgerald, like I said, MVP, 57-yarder, a few other field goals, couple, I should say, and then his extra points. I mean, it was a really solid day. Falcons ended up at one point putting in Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix throws the 2 interceptions, and Parker Romo missed 2 field goals. So when we talk about the Carolina Panthers game from this past week, there's a few things that stand out. Dominating defense, all facets worked. And then you had some things on the other side that panned out in your favor. And then when those things happen, it's what you see. That's the result. So I don't think we're going to get that every single week. I know we're not. We're not going to get 3 turnovers. We're not going to have pick 6 touchdown. We're also not going to have a team that gets the ball off of a muffed punt and is not able to convert that into points or misses field goals. So I think this thing will balance out. This is a good opportunity, in my opinion, to really find out who this team is. I've said you don't really know a team until you're a month in. That's my belief. Big opportunity for the Panthers to get to 500. Like, let's just say get to 500, win 2 games in a row, and then continue this path forward. On the flip side for New England, Patriots were defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers, like we mentioned, 21-14, in large part due to 5 turnovers. I mean, it was a tough game going back and watching some of the highlights of this. The team battled, though, and Drake Maye only with the 1 interception. It was 4 fumbles. So it's not all on Drake, and I think they're going to figure this thing out, but it is going to take some time. You can't fumble the ball and then expect to win, like I said, with 5 turnovers. So big game for both teams this week, looking to get back on the right track. Taking a step back at the last 5, now this does include the preseason, so we'll ignore the 2 preseason games for both teams. But Carolina, of course, lost week 1, Jacksonville, 26-10. Comeback fell short against Arizona, 27-22 after the onside kick, and they beat the Falcons. Patriots lost to the Raiders, 20-13. They did squeak out a win over Miami. We don't think Miami's good, but, I mean, they've been competitive in a way. And then lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Pittsburgh maybe not as good as we think or thought either. All right, let's talk about your headlines. Yeah, and we've really covered this, like where we sit today. You've got a desperate versus determined quarterback, Bryce Young, Drake Maye facing off in a battle of turnaround teams. So both the Panthers and Patriots are coming into week 4 looking for a crucial performance. A dominant win for Carolina, the turnover plague loss for New England. So the headline continues to put pressure on both of these young quarterbacks. Again, trying to find their footing. I think there's, at least in my opinion, a little more pressure on Bryce Young. We've talked about that. I think he's got to figure it out this year. And the game manager route is probably okay too. I know some fans would like to see more, but at least when you have a performance like you did with your defense and turnovers, you battle through. And I do think Drake Maye, again, on that upward trajectory, especially if you look at where they sit within their division. I mean, you really have Josh Allen, Tua, we don't know the status of him being up and down, and then the Jets with Fields and everything that's going on there and backups. So I think for me, when you look at this, Drake May potentially putting himself in position to be the second best quarterback right now in that division within the AFC East. So for me, number two, we have Carolina's really, I say defensive line, but it's defensive line edge trying to get after Drake May. And I don't know why I put in one of the notes that I put in here, but trying to get into Drake May, man, you have to be able to get to the quarterback. As I mentioned, coming into this, got to be able to get to him. The pressure that this team has gotten, it's been there. We saw hits on Michael Penix. We saw forced pressure that caused turnovers, but we got to get more than one sack. This team naturally needs that, just the way I see it right now. So what can they do? And for the Patriots, you're looking to just put everything behind you from the past week. 5 turnovers, like we said, that's really the headline that's coming out of this. Overall, you have 5 turnovers and then you're still in the football game, only touchdown. I think that makes you, it's hard to say it makes you feel good, but in a way you're like, okay, we were down Arizona and the Panthers and their comeback, although really different situations. So that's my number 3. And let's see what we got here. Number 4, can Canales keep the Panthers' momentum rolling? One of the things that, and I posted this, is Bryce Young as a quarterback leading this team has struggled on the road. He has only win. He's had 2. One was in Germany. His other win was against the Atlanta Falcons on the road. Those are the only 2 games that Bryce Young has won as a quarterback on the road in the NFL. He's got to start winning some of those, especially if you're going to talk about this team. And again, not talking playoffs, but talking about being in contention in November and December. You have to start and to figure out how to get the job done. So anyways, let's turn our attention as we get back on here to the NFC South standings. Looking okay for Tampa Bay, right, at 3-0, followed by the Panthers at 1-2, Falcons 1-2, and then the Saints at 0-3. You at least think for the Panthers that, if you can sweep Atlanta and you can sweep the Saints, man, that's 4 wins. Can you find another 4 or 5 to help you? You've already gotten 1, slowly working your way there, but we'll see. Anyways, for the AFC East, almost a similar spot. And the good news for Panthers fans is we have New England, you have Miami, and you have the Jets, and then you throw in the Cowboys. All of those teams coming up. There's a good opportunity, and this is why fans are a little bit excited in Carolina. Although, again, got to see it play out. But there's a good opportunity for the Panthers to really get this thing rolling. And this is what we believed. This stretch of the schedule is the part of the schedule that the Panthers had to get going. Build itself up early because you have a game against the Bills as well. You have a game against Green Bay at Green Bay. That's not going to be easy. And then you have Tampa Bay later in the season when they'll probably get healthy and be on a roll like they always are. So this is a prime opportunity. Speaking of which, as I mentioned, have the Cowboys, well, let me rephrase this, get back on my order. Patriots this week, then the Dolphins at home, Cowboys at home. Panthers have also been on the road 3 of the first 4 games, so they'll get 2 games back-to-back with Dolphins and Cowboys, although both fan bases travel well, up to face the Jets, then the Buffalo Bills, and then Green Bay Packers. So that Buffalo-Green Bay stretch is going to be tough for the Panthers. If they were to win 3 games, or ideally 4, if they went 4-0 within this stretch, they're putting themselves in really good position. And if they could squeak out either Buffalo or the game against the Packers, you never know, man. You never know. On the flip side, let's look at New England's schedule. Panthers this week. Then they have Buffalo traveling to Buffalo. The Saints, got to feel good about that. The Titans, Mike Vrabel's old team, also have to feel pretty good about that, even though Cam Ward looks pretty good. the Browns, who kind of shocking there a little bit, but Browns finding their footing in the Atlanta Falcons. So if I'm a New England Patriots fan, I also look at this and say, okay, you know what? There are some winnable games within this slate that we can get ourselves on the right footing as well. We're going to jump over into the NFL Pro preview for this game, go through the stats as well as the insights, and we're going to try to share our screen here. Appreciate you guys, as always, tuning into this show. Let's get everything. Make sure we look good on this side. That'll work. That'll play for us. So coming in, the preview here, points per game for the Carolina Panthers, 20.7. That's 19th. I mean, the Patriots are right behind them at 20. That's 21st. Panthers finally have a positive point differential at +9. That's 15th in the NFL. It helps when you score 30 and you allow 0. -8 point differential for the Patriots, which is 20th. The record in close games is 0-1. That's the thing for the Panthers. They haven't really had any close games. New England's every game's been close, sitting at 1-2. I think close games defined by a score. Average margin of victory, and the Panthers have only had one victory. It was by 30 points, so they lead the NFL. New England with a 6-point margin is 18th. The turnover differential swung pretty heavily for the Panthers. They also would have been even if you didn't have the muff punt, but -1, which is 20th. New England, -3. And then total penalties, Panthers at the top of the NFL with only 17, which ranks 9th. New England with 27 penalties, ranked 27th. Before we get into a few more of the stats here, I'm also going to highlight, we talked about points per game. Yards per game for the Panthers, 227 yards, which is 24th. Patriots are allowing 316, which is 17th in the NFL. New England, pretty good offense, 11th in yards per game with 346. You don't have some of those turnovers. Maybe you have some more points. And 334 yards allowed by the Panthers. Third down efficiency on offense for the Panthers, 39%, which is 19th. New England's defense is 40%, which ranks 19th. So there you go. Our third down defense for the Panthers, 38% allowed, which is 15th. But New England is converting at 43% on third, 9th in the NFL. Really good to be able to convert those third downs. And then red zone scoring percentage for the offense. Once you get into the red zone percentage of touchdowns for the Panthers, 62%. New England's red zone defense, as far as allowing touchdowns, not great. They are 31st in the NFL, about 83% ability to score a touchdown once you get in the red zone. On the other side, New England, 54.55% ability to score a touchdown in the red zone once they get there, which is 17th. And our defense is only allowing a touchdown at a rate of 44%, 7th in the NFL. So red zone defense kind of figuring it out. Good for the Carolina Panthers. We talked about the overall attack for both teams. Rushing yards a game for the Panthers, 90.7, which is 25th in the NFL. Patriots defense is the number 2 rushing defense. So tall task, giving up 60 yards per game. On the other side, New England averaging 100 yards. Drake Maye able to do a lot of that as well. I think he was their leading rusher last week. I have to pull it up. And then Panthers are allowing 137, which is a lot. It's 25th, but it's not last. And it's a continued improvement, and we're starting to see them make some plays. So hopefully you combine those things together. And Drake Maye leading in completion percentage, number 2 completion percentage, at least right now in the NFL. They pass the ball very heavily, about 60% of the time, but Panthers pass even more. But the numbers are skewed because of the comeback game where they passed 55 times against the Cardinals. They're putting up about 245 yards per game in the air, which is 7th in the NFL. We're allowing 196, which is 12th. And then from our side, putting up 186. And opportunity for Bryce Young is you're going up against the number 29 pass defense in the NFL. All right, let's get into a few more high-level overviews. So overall passing efficiency favors the Panthers. Rushing efficiency, when you look at the Panthers offense compared to the Patriots defense, as I mentioned, heavily favors New England. Pressure rate, not the greatest as far as pressure rate allowed, but sides with New England on their defense. And then as far as looking at the Patriots offense, again, passing efficiency for them, number 9 against the number 6 defense, small favor. Rushing efficiency is about the same as far as their offense and our defense. And then pressure rate, like we just don't get pressure in favor of New England. Looking at a few other key advantages, I highlighted these. So rushing outside the tackles, you just look at the rushing defense, rushing outside the tackles, rushing efficiency, designed runs, rushing under center, all heavily favors New England. The short passing game, one advantage for the Panthers. Now, flipping it over to the Patriots offense, as I mentioned, rushing in the red zone, really scoring in the red zone, not great, heavily favored for the Panthers. Rushing versus stacked box, which we've seen a lot with this team last week, kind of stacking the box, even getting Trayvon Merrick down there, favors the Patriots. Rushing in shotgun in favor of the Panthers. Pressure rate, we know we don't have a pressure rate, and rushing versus a light box is actually more beneficial for us. We have pretty much broken down passing. I'm not going to go through all the passing. You can go out to NFL Pro. I want to make sure we get through this. Let's look at the matchup insights provided by NFL Pro. J.C. Horn has allowed a negative 26.6% completion percentage over expected, the second lowest among outside cornerbacks with a minimum of 10 targets. He's been targeted 16 times, allowing 7 receptions and recording an interception. His 43.8% completion percentage allowed is 7th lowest. So good for him. Patriots defense, the Patriots have recorded 35 missed tackles through 3 weeks in the season, tied for the third most, while posting a 17.8% missed tackle rate, which is the third highest. In week 3 against the Steelers, the Patriots recorded 14 missed tackles and a 23.3% missed tackle rate, highest single game rate since week 2 of 2018. Wow. Drake Maye is cooking. Drake Maye has thrown for 624 yards, second most in the NFL, while generating a 51.5% drop back success rate, which is the 4th highest against zone coverage. Against cover 3, Maye leads the league with 358 yards passing. The Panthers defense has played zone coverage at the 3rd highest rate this season, 86% of the time, including cover 3 at the 3rd highest. So favor of Drake Maye, hands down. And our last insight here, Milton Williams. Oh man, we all know about Milton Williams and wanted him to come here. Didn't pan out. It's okay. He's generated the 3rd most pressures with 11, and Christian Barmore is tied with 4th most pressures with 10 among defensive tackles this season, making them the only interior defensive line duo, both ranked in the top 7 in pressures. Player projections for this game. Bryce Young projected to throw for 208, Chuba Hubbard, and rush for 22. Chuba Hubbard, 63 yards. Ted McMillan, 5 for 69. XL, if he gets out there, he's still in the mix. 2 for 30. Tommy Tremble, 2 for 21 on the side of New England. Drake Maye with 228. Trayvon Henderson only with 33 rushing yards. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 46. Kayshawn, probably going to say that wrong, but Kayshawn Bote, 2.9, or about 3 catches for 38. And then Hunter Henry. Tell you what, tight ends can feast. Tight ends can feast against New England, against the Carolina Panthers there. All right, we're going to take a look here. We'll look at team leaders. We'll also look at the injury report because we had this on the list as well. Pat Jones did not participate. He's in practice this week. Yesterday, battling a hamstring. XL, same thing. Tedero McMillan with the calf, but it sounds like from the post-locker room scrum that he's going to be available. Hunter Renfrow, congratulations, had a little girl. JT Sanders with the ankle is week to week. Turk Wharton still week to week is what we've heard. Maybe he's getting closer. DJ Wonham with a hip did not participate. I'm not sure. We'll see there. And then Rico Dowdle was limited. JC Horn was limited. And Taylor Moton was limited. I should say all three of those were rest days. Only other significant news is Jalen Coker still progressing through, but at least for right now, no signs that that window is going to be activated. As of now, it can be activated after this week. So we'll see what that looks like if he does get that 21-day window open. Hopefully he does, because man, I got to tell you, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, man, when it comes to this wide receiver room. How about this? Clavon Chasen, who was here not that long ago and let go, did not participate. But speaking of New England, with a knee, Jared Wilson with an ankle and a knee did not participate. And then Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, was limited. It was not injury related. And then Christian Gonzalez, cornerback with a hamstring, was limited in practice. We looked at the passing stats, and that zone coverage stat is ridiculous for Drake Maye. He's freaking balling out there. But Bryce Young with 603 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 75.3 rating, 5.3 yards per attempt, 60.5 completion percentage. Drake Maye with 785 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 101.3 passer rating, 7.4 yards per attempt, 72.6 completion percentage. Our secondary is really going to feel it. That's why you got to get pressure. You know, he can move. I'm telling you, I think Drake Maye is going to be one of the good ones. I really do. So, I don't know. I got a little bit of bias in me. Chuba Hubbard with 168 yards on the season, followed by Rico Dowdle with 51. Bryce Young with 50. Chuba Hubbard, 2 receiving touchdowns, but has not gotten into the end zone on the ground as of yet. On the side of New England, Ramondre Stevenson with 87 yards, Drake Maye with 87, really struggling to get it. But they got a combined effort. And then Trayvon Henderson with 65. I think they'll get him going. We talked about the last 5 games. Let's hop over to receiving. T-Mac, Tedero McMillan, 216 yards, no touchdowns on the season. I think that's going to change eventually. JT Sanders with 92. Chuba Hubbard with 74 and 2 touchdowns. Hunter Henry with 2 touchdowns, 165 yards again. Tight ends are going to feast. Kayshawn with 147 and 1 touchdown. And then Ramondre Stevenson. So really getting the backs going in the passing game with 138 yards on the season. It's a good passing attack there in New England. Let's see what else we got going for you guys today as we go through this. We went through team rankings. We went through NFL Pro. We went through the injury report. Now we can shift over, take a quick look at the depth chart as we like to do. We'll start with the Panthers just because I know it more. On the offense for the Panthers, Tedero McMillan still leading the charge, although with all these players out, XL, T-Mac, Hunter Renfro, we did get to see a little bit of David Moore and Jimmy Horn Jr. and Bryson Tremaine yesterday. But as of now, still Tedero McMillan, David Moore, and DeLavon Campbell is your X. Hunter Renfro is your slot. Icky Aquanu at left tackle, Brady Christensen backup, Damian Lewis left guard, Cade Mays at center, Nick Samak VOA of the Ravens practice squad as your backup center, Chandler Zavala right guard, Taylor Moton and Yash Nijman as your right tackles, starter and backup. And then JT Sanders, we mentioned the injury. Tommy Tremble, so we'll probably get a good dose of Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, and James Mitchell. Canales did talk about James Mitchell yesterday. And then XL, Bryson Tremaine, Jimmy Horn Jr. No idea what XL is going to look like this week, but I guess we'll find out if he's going to be available. Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, and then Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne. Defensively, again, Turk still battling, so we'll find out if he's going to make it through with his injury. But Bobby Brown III, in that rotation, A'Shaun Robinson and Cam Jackson, Derek Brown, Jaden Crumity, Pat Jones, Princely Uman Mielen, and Thomas Kuhn as well, Trevin Wallace, Claudin Cherilus, Christian Roseboom, Bam Martin Scott, Maima Injong Meta, we talked about. He got some special teams reps coming over by way of the Bengals practice squad, so getting on the field. DJ Wonham, Nick Scorton. Haven't seen a lot of DJ Johnson on defense at all. Mike Jackson, Corey Thornton, J.C. Horn, Shaw Smith Wade, Caleb Evans, and then Trayvon Merrick, Damani Richardson, Nick Scott, and Lathan Ransom. We'll take a look here if we can. I had New England's pulled up, but I actually was looking at their transactions. So earlier this week, they signed defensive back Tyron Herring to the practice squad and released defensive back Corey Ballantyne. They signed offensive lineman Royce Newman and tight end G. Scott Jr. to the practice squad. On game day, they had elevated cornerback Kobe Minor and Mark Robinson there. All right, let's see if we can go back. I love how the Panthers website says depth chart on there, and then the New England Patriots say unofficial depth chart. All right, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins. We all know, at least Carolina fans know Mac Hollins, and I think he's still finding his footing, bouncing around from team to team, 1 year at a time. Will Campbell, left tackle. Jared Wilson, left guard. Garrett Bradbury, center. Mike Onwenu, right guard. Morgan Moses, right tackle. Hunter Henry, tight end. Demario Douglas, wide receiver. Kayshawn Bote, wide receiver. Ramondre Stevenson, running back. We got a fullback on here. How about that? Jack Westover and then Drake Maye. Starting on the defense, Kaylavon Chasen, Christian Barmore, Kyrieus Tonga, Milton Williams, Harold Landry III, Robert Spillane, Christian Ellis, Carlton Davis III, Jalen Hawkin, Craig Woodson, and Christian Gonzalez. And I did not talk about the Panthers and Ryan Fitzgerald, but Ryan Fitzgerald booming over there. Andre Borregales for your New England Patriots. All right, let's see what we got cooking up for you guys as we get ready to close this episode out. Let's see what we got up here. We may briefly, I don't think we're going to go through this. Every week I put this on here and we just don't have time to go through it, and it's unfortunate. So it's the NFL game capsule for those that don't know, and it's a nice little summary of just some data heading into this game. Key insights, performances, things like that. Maybe I'll have to start with this moving forward so we can actually get through it. But for today, we'll pass as we look to close out the preview. Don't like to keep you guys longer than you need. How about this? Right now, the ESPN matchup predictor analytics has the New England Patriots favored 55% to Carolina's 44.7%. Every week that we've come into this, it's been the other team that's in favor. And last week, pretty similar odds, and we saw the Panthers able to pull it out. Looking through the sports bet, and not an affiliate, but I always like to see what are they saying through ESPN Bet. Carolina Panthers, 5.5 point dogs. The New England Patriots favored by 5.5, over under at 43.5. They did open at 4.5 and it moved by a point. So there you have it. All right, folks, it's time to get into the final prediction for today. Drum roll. As always, here we go, folks. I got Carolina Panthers getting the job done 24-20. When am I on the season? Am I 1-2 predicting this? So not great, but we'll get there. Hopefully we get a Panthers victory on Sunday to pull this thing off. As always, folks, appreciate you guys tuning into the show. This is Carolina